Krishna. It's June 19th, 2020, and we're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. We're in Text 2. Text 2, Canto 2, Chapter 7. What's that? Hare Krishna. Okay. All right. So text 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7. Jata Ucher Ajanayat Suyaman Suyadya Akuti Sunu Amaran Ata Dakshinayam Loka Rayasya Mahatim Aharat Yat Artim Swayambhuvena Manuna Hari Iti Anukta Jato Vucher Ajanayat Suyaman Suyagya Akuti Sunur Amaranatadakshinayam Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim Swayambhuvena Manuna Harya Ityanukta Jato Rucher Ajanayat Suyaman Suyagya Akuti Sunuramaranatadakshinayam Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim Swayambhuvena Manuna Harya Ityanukta Jato Rucher Ajanayat Suyaman Suyagya Akuti Sunur Amaran Atadakshinayam Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim Swayambhuvena Manuna Harya Ityanukta Jato Ruchera Janayat Suyaman Suyagya Akuti Sunuramaranatadakshinayam Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim Swayambhuvena Manuna Harityanukta
Jato Rucher Janayat Suyaman Suyagya Jato Ruchera Janaya Suyaman Suyagya Akuti Sunu Ramaranata Dakshinayam Akuti Sunu Ramaranata Dakshinayam Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim Swayambhuvena Manuna Haririthyanuktam Swayambhuvena Manuna Haririthyanuktam
Jato Ruchera Janaya Suyaman Suyagya
Jato Ruchera Janaya Suyaman Suyagya
Akuti Sunu Ramaram Artatakshinayam
Akuti Sunu Ramaram Artatakshinayam
Lokatrayasya Mahati Maharajatartim
Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim
Swayambhuvena Manuna Aririthyanukta
Swayambhuvena Manuna Aririthyanukta
Jato Ruchera Janaya Suryaman Sayana
Yato Ruchera Janaya Suyaman Suyagya
Akyuti Sunar Amarana Tadakshinayam
Akuti Sunu Ramaranata Dakshinayam
Lokatrayasya Mahati Maharajadartim
Lokatrayasya Mahati Maharajadartim
Swayambhuvena Manuna Haririthyanukta
Swayambhuvena Manuna Haririthyanukta.
Jato Ruchera Janaya Suyaman Suyagya
Jato Ruchera Janaya Suyaman Suyagya
Akuti Sunu Ramaranata Dakshinayam
Akuti Sunu Ramaranata Dakshinayam
Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim
Lokatrayasya Mahatim Maharajadartim
Svayambhuvena Manuna Haririthyanukta
Swayambhuvena Manuna Haririthyanukta. Hare Krishna will go to the word for word. Jata was born. Ruche of the wife of Prajapati. Ajanayat gave birth. Suyaman headed by Suyama. Suyagya Akuti Suna of the son of Akuti. Amaran the demigods. Ata thus Dakshinayam unto the wife of the name Dakshina. Loka the planetary systems. Trayasya of the three. Mahatim very great. Aharat diminished. Yat all those. Artim distresses. Swayambhuvena by the Manu named Swayambhuva. Manuna by the father of mankind. Hari Iti thus. Anukta named. Translation. The Prajapati first begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagya begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagya, as the Indradev, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In order to guard against the invention of unauthorized incarnations of God by the fanciful, less intelligent persons, the name of the father of the bona fide incarnation is also mentioned in the authorized revealed scriptures. No one, therefore, can be accepted as an incarnation of the Lord if his father's name, as well as the name of the village or place in which he appears, is not mentioned by the authorized scriptures. In the Bhagavat Purana, the name of the Kalki incarnation, which is to take place in almost 400,000 years, is mentioned along with the name of his father and the name of the village in which he will appear. A sane man, therefore, does not accept any cheap edition of an incarnation without reference to the authorized scriptures. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurad Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutave Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanpitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gauranga Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Haripriya Panchakalpadubhyas Kripa Sindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Charvinotamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tatojayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta praise for Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavat Utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Jato Rucher Ajanayat Suyaman Suyagya Akuti Suniramaran Tadakshinayam Loka Trayasya Mahatim Maharadya Dartim Swayam Bhuvena Manuna Hariritya Nukta. The Prajapati first begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagya begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagya, as the Indradev, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu. Hare Krishna. So this chapter is entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. It's spoken by Lord Brahma to Narada Muni, and this is all narrated by Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit at the gathering of sages on the banks of the Ganges, and that's all related by Sutta Goswami at Namisharanya speaking to the sages headed by Sonaka Rishi. And before Shukadeva and Maharaj Parikshit come onto the scene, which is right at the end of the first canto, so it's Sutta Goswami speaking to the sages, and there's a chapter right at the beginning of the first canto, the third chapter of the first canto. And that chapter, it's very similar to this. It's called Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And both chapters, chapter 7 of Canto 2 and chapter 3 of Canto 1, both chapters describe a little over 24, like 25 to 30 incarnations of Godhead. They're not completely parallel. Each chapter contains some descriptions of incarnations that the other chapter doesn't. At the same time, there's a lot of parallel. And so it's described in that third chapter of the first canto that the number of incarnations of God is more numerous than the waves in the sea. Okay, so that gets into quadrillions and trillions and pentillions, and then that's not even a fraction of the number of incarnations. It's described, Krishna appears in different forms in each species. There are 8,400,000 species. So we're hearing here in Bhagavatam about 24, 25, 30 incarnations. Okay. And even amongst those 25, 30, there are some, like the one described here. His name is, Suyagya, who appeared. So Suyagya is an incarnation of Vishnu, and in one manvantar, or one universal cycle, it was Krishna, through Krishna appearing as Suyagya in the form of Indra. Just like sometimes when there's no particularly qualified jiva soul to take the post of Brahma, Krishna himself comes as Brahma. In our particular universe, my understanding is the sun is called Surya, but he's called Surya Narayan, because in our particular universe, the sun is actually an incarnation of Vishnu. So in some day of Brahma, or cycle of the Manu, the Indra was an incarnation of Vishnu called Suyagya, and then Svayambhuva Manu called him Hari. Hari means one who takes away miseries, one who steals, in a sense. So there's a description here, a description in fourth canto. So we hear a little bit about this Hari, not too much. We hear a lot about incarnations, of course. So it's just Krishna, but it's not correct to say Krishna is an incarnation. Towards the end of the third chapter of the first canto, Sutta Goswami describes very clearly, Ete Chamsakla Pumsa, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. There are innumerable incarnations, and Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Maharshinam Chasarvasha Ahamadirhi Devanam. He says, I'm the source of the demigods, I'm the source of the sages. And Bhagavatam makes it very clear, Krishna is not an incarnation. He's the source of all incarnations. When Krishna appears, he might come through his Vishnu expansion, so it's not wrong to say he's an incarnation of Vishnu, but that's not the complete understanding. So we hear a lot about avatars and incarnations, like Nrsingadev. Prabhupada instituted, like every day, Nrsingadev mantra, so that's a particularly important incarnation for us. Lord Ramachandra, and Prabhupada put on the calendar the appearance day of Varahadev and Vamanadev. And of course, okay, so these are incarnations in forms. So in a sense, the most important is the Nam avatar, Krishna incarnating in the form of his name. Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kevalam, Nastev, Natiranyata. And so, okay, so it's a relatively short purport, but there are many vital points in the verse and purport. So, yes, okay, so you have Swayambhuva Manu. It says, so this was the first Manu in this day of Brahma. We're currently on the seventh Manu called Vaivasvata Manu, who is called Vaivasvata because he's the son of Vivasvan. Vivasvan is the name of our current sun god, who's also Surya Narayan. Okay, and so the current Manu is described in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna starts the fourth chapter Vivasvan Manave Braha Manur Ikshakave Brabit. That Krishna spoke this to the sun god, who spoke it to his son, who spoke it to Manu, like that. The chain of disciplic succession. Imam Vivashvate Yogam Bhoktavana Amavi. All right, so Swayambhuva Manu had three daughters, and one of them is Devahuti. We hear a whole lot about her in the third canto. She's highly philosophical, and there's a whole series of chapters towards the end of the third canto, several chapters that describe her discussions with her son, Kapila. And before that describes her adventures with her husband, Kardama Muni. So Kapila is another incarnation who we'll hear about, or maybe even the next verse. Yeah, the next verse is about Kapila and Devahuti. Okay, so Devahuti, and then another son is another daughter, Swayambhuva Manu, is Prasuti, who's becomes the wife of Daksha. We hear a lot about Daksha as in the fourth canto and sixth canto. Daksha is the main personality. And then the other daughter mentioned here is Akuti. So Prasuti, Akuti, and Devahuti. And so Akuti is with Prajapati named Ruchi, and they produced this incarnation of God called Suyagya. And then Swayambhuva Manu had two sons that we know about. And we hear a whole lot about them in the Bhagavatam. They're very important personalities. One son is Uttanapad. So as the fourth canto goes on, we'll hear about Uttanapad. He's the father of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, a special personality and a big part of the fourth canto. Another son of Uttanapad is Priyavrata. And especially when we get to the fifth canto kind of begins with after Uttanapad kind of left, they needed an emperor for the earth. And Priyavrata, he was just kind of doing austerities, chanting Hare Krishna in the forest. He was completely satisfied. So Swayambhuva Manu came, his grandfather. Brahma came, his great-grandfather. Narada Muni came, who was like the renunciate amongst all renunciates. And they really needed to work hard to convince Priyavrata, no, you should do this kingdom thing. You should do like palace and treasure house and ruling. And Priyavrata was like, I'm just eating some roots and berries and chanting Hare Krishna. This is a good life here. So they said, no, this is your service. You need to. And they ultimately convinced him. And then in his line, there's Rishabhadev. Okay. So, all right. So again, we hear about these pastimes because they're related to Krishna. It's described early in the Bhagavatam. Munaya Sabha Kristoham, Bhava Birlokamandalam, Krita Krishna Samprashno, Enatma Suprasidate. The first chapter of the Bhagavatam, first canto, after the first three invocation verses from Srila Vyasadeva, then it's the sages asking questions to Sri Sutta Goswami. And Sutta Goswami, right at the start of his reply, after offering obeisances to Shukadeva Goswami, and Naranarayan and Mother Sarasvati and Srila Vyasadeva, Sutta Goswami says, Munaya Sabha Krishna Bhava Birloka Mangalam. Says, these questions are glorious because they relate to Lord Krishna. This isn't just like, oh, this one is that cousin and this one is the uncle of this and who's the brother of this. It's all glorious because it relates to Lord Krishna. It relates to the incarnation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Sutta Goswami emphasized, therefore, these questions are relevant for the welfare, the benefit of everyone, all the time, especially here in Kali Yuga. So, so Prabhupada's making the point that, okay, so the name of the father, the name of the mother, the name of the village are given for these incarnations. And Prabhupada's making the point that, yeah, like there's so many so-called incarnations of God. This was especially, maybe still is prevalent in India, but in different places of the world. Or even just like, you know, we're all God. We just need to meditate enough to realize it. There's so many ideas, you know, like that. So specifically, so many kind of false incarnations of God. So Prabhupada's and Lord Brahma, they're kind of cautioning us, like, no, it needs to be an authorized description in the scriptures. Don't just accept things foolishly, cheaply, right? So we hear this incarnation called Hari Suyagya, and his mother's name, his father's name. The predictions are given. Prabhupada talks about the prediction of Kalki Avatar coming in about 400,000 years or so. And so, Shruti Smriti Purnari, Panchratri Vrida Ahikanti Harer Bhakti Utpata Yada Kapate. That describes that, yeah, that to perform bhakti, this is like, it's really important that we're not sentimental and that we do it according to the Shastra, according to the scripture. Ya Shastra Vidimutsrija Vartate Kamakarata Nasa Siddhim Avatnoti Nasukamna Param Gatim. Krishna says there in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if we're not following Shastra in some rigorous way, then we won't achieve Nasa, we won't achieve the perfection of life. We won't be happy. We won't be clean. And so it's warned that don't like accept incarnations or processes or philosophies that aren't coming down from perfect infallible authority. Otherwise, we're going to waste our human life, or less, or worse, actually. So this whole chapter, it was a week ago, Dr. Patrick gave a class about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so the whole Bhagavatam, it's about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's stories. There's like some misconception that, bhakti is for old women and children who like stories. Okay, there's some conception like that. But like, if you're really philosophical, then you're not going to do like bhakti. Bhakti's like stories, you know, like Sita and Ram in the forest, and okay, that's sweet and all. But if you're really philosophical, then so of course the Bhagavatam has the most sublime philosophy spoken by these incarnations, spoken by Kapila Dev, spoken by the Gunavatar Lord Brahma, the most sublime philosophy intertwined with the with the pastimes. So this is very, because the idea is, well, if you're really philosophical, you know, then you'll come to the conclusion of kind of that the undifferentiated oneness is actually the ultimate, and all these pastimes, these are just functions of Maya. These are just whatever, you know, God's an old man with a beard in the sky. And these are obviously childish imaginations. These are functions of Maya. So because in, let's say, many traditions outside of the authentic Vedic tradition, a lot of what goes in the name of personalism, it does tend to lack philosophy, right? And like, if we look biblical tradition and things like that, and the idea of different personal descriptions relative to what we get in the Bhagavatam, there's not so much philosophy. And so as the centuries went on, intellectual type persons tended to reject that and reject the idea of the personality of Godhead. But here with Srila Vyasadeva, we get philosophically sound personalism, understanding the different energies of Godhead, right? Yeah, sometimes we use the term reverse anthropomorphism, because the idea is, of course, we reject the idea of a personality of Godhead, because it's just like, because you need some father figure, and so you just make some person into God to satisfy some psychological need. Okay, so basically it's, pretty common point of view. But the idea is that Krishna says, Avajananti mamuda manushim tanamashrutam parambhava majanato mamabhuta maheshwaram. He says, when I descend in the human form, people don't understand my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. That when God appears in personal form, whether it's half man, half lion, as boar, as Kapila Deva, as Krishna Ramachandra, that it's not a material body. So there's form, there's material form, which is illusory and temporary and defective. It's subject to death, old age, disease, and then there's spiritual form. And we ourselves, a spirit soul, we are spiritual form. And through bhakti yoga, through practicing sadhana, our original spiritual form is manifest, it's revealed. So its form, its personality, its relationship of a completely different type. And so enlightened souls are attracted to hear the pastimes, not just the pastimes we hear on the internet, radio, TV, movie, sports, politics, spiritual, personal pastimes. An important part of the Bhagavatam, so the Bhagavatam is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. So an important part about Shukadeva Goswami, well, first of all, he stayed in the womb of his mother for 16 years. Sometimes I hear 19, but even if it was only 16 years, it's kind of like, whoa, okay. So why? So this is the history of the speaker. He's the main speaker of Bhagavatam. So why did he stay in the womb of his mother? Because he was an enlightened soul. And he's like, I don't want to go out there. I don't want to do this whole thing. I don't want to do it. Okay. And his father is Vyasadeva. And his father is like trying to convince him, come out. And then Shukadeva Goswami would only come out when Krishna himself personally came. Vyasadeva brought Krishna himself. And he says, maybe you can talk to the boy and get him to come out. So Krishna assured Vyasadeva, he assured Shukadeva Goswami in the womb, you won't be influenced by Maya. So because Shukadeva understood material enjoyment, and he was liberated, he was beyond it. He had no interest in material so-called enjoyment. So he came out of the womb. And so Vyasadeva, I don't want to make it seem like Vyasadeva was attached to him like a material parental relationship. But Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva had so many disciples, but he wanted his son, to learn also. But Shukadeva Goswami just no interest, he just started going away. And so Shukadeva Goswami, he was impersonally realized. He was realized in the Brahma Gyoti. He was completely, it means he had no material desire, no material inclination, okay? It's described that when he was walking away, after he came out of the womb, when he was walking away, he was just happened to walk by, there was a pond with some young ladies, and they were bathing in the pond, bathing naked. And they didn't even bother to cover themselves because they got that Shukadeva Goswami, he's just not making distinctions, woman, man, this form, that form. So they didn't even feel embarrassed like that. And then his father was sort of chasing him. His father was kind of coming after him. And his father is Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva was in the Grahastha ashram. And when the great soul Vyasadeva passed, then the women covered themselves. But they could see he was making distinction. So Shukadeva, he was a realized soul, meaning no attachment to anything material. No attachment to anything material. Okay. Then, so why is this particularly important? So then Saunaka Rishi, so in the 7th chapter of the first canto, Saunaka Rishi says, he asks Sutta Goswami, so how come Shukadeva Goswami, this Brahmin enlightened soul, so how come he's so attracted to speak by him? He's so absorbed in Bhagavad. How come he has no attraction to anything material, and he's talking about all these young girls, the gopis, and he's talking about all these pastimes, Nrsingadev and Prahlad Maharaj and Brahman. So what's that about? What's that about? So Sri Shukadeva Goswami is described by Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami responds to Saunaka Rishi, and he says, Atmaramas chamunayo nirganti apyurukrami kurvante hetu kim bhaktim itam bhuta budo hari. So this is that's called the Atmarama verse. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya explains the Atmarama verse from 64 perspectives, or 63 or something. And he explains it like several times. He explains it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, to Sanatan Goswami, to Prakshana Sarasvati. That's the 10th verse of the 7th chapter of the first canto. Atmaramas Chamunaya. So that's Sutta Goswami speaking to Saunaka Rishi, and Sutta Goswami saying, the great realized souls who are completely detached from matter, they are attracted to the pastimes of Sri Krishna, the personality of God. So this is significant because it means that the highest aspect of the absolute truth is Krishna and his pastimes. Even those who are truly detached from matter, well, and they're merged in the impersonal Brahman, they're really realizing it. Okay, they're attracted to hear about Krishna and the Cowherd Boys. They're attracted to hear about Ram and Sita. They're attracted to hear about Nrsingadev and Prahlad. They're attracted to hear about Kardama Muni and Devahuti and Kapil, which means that it's described. It's described in the Vaishnava literatures that the happiness that comes from that absorption in impersonal Brahman, it's not even a fraction of a fraction. It's not even a trillionth of a drop of the ocean of happiness that's there in the pastimes of Krishna, that's there in Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so even Shukadeva Goswami was attracted to these pastimes. Lord Chaitanya, he was a super strict sannyasi, and so he's only interested in the highest. He has no interest in matter, and he defines the highest form of worship. Gopi Bhartu Padakamalira Das Das Anudas, to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the Gopi girls. Okay, so that means these are not material pastimes. This is not soap opera, right? These are fully spiritual pastimes, and this is the completion of the absolute truth. Okay? It includes the Brahman realization, their spiritual path. Otherwise, Shukadeva Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the four Kumaras, they were also impersonally realized. The four Kumaras were also impersonally realized. And then their pastime is they were kind of wandering around Vaikuntha, and they were attracted by the fragrance of the flowers, of the tulasi leaves that were offered to the feet of Vishnu. Okay, so again, very personal, sensory, but it's spiritual fragrance. It's not material fragrance. Okay, so the fact that these great personalities who truly achieved liberation from matter, that they are attracted to the fragrance tulasi leaves offered to Vishnu, they are attracted to the pastimes of Krishna, Lord Nrsimhadev. It means that this personalism, God as a person, is the highest, most intimate, complete aspect of the absolute, of the absolute. We sometimes quote William Blake, British poet, philosopher, and he has a couplet in a poem. God appears and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night, but does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day. So William Blake, I don't know if those who are like scholars in William Blake get where he's coming from, but it seems to me he's coming from a highly realized bhakti place. And it's like, from, I would say, the modern and postmodern point of view, his whole couplet there, it's quite counterintuitive. God appears and God is light. We're supposed to celebrate that. God is light. And he goes, to those poor souls who dwell in night. Because they don't even have a drop of the bliss that's available by serving God and his pure devotees. Because they've disregarded the personal form, but does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day. So of course he was a follower of Jesus and clearly had some great realization. So this chapter, scheduled incarnations with specific functions, and to study this as we're doing practically each morning or in a private reading, this is part of our sadhana. Means that the nature of the soul, nitya siddha Krishna prema, sajika bunoi, shavanadi shuddhachite karye udai. The soul is naturally full of love for God, which means the soul naturally is wanting to soak up these pastimes of Krishna and his incarnations and his pure devotees. That's the nature of the soul. And we've, due to some poor choices, we've allowed that nature to be covered. And so we practice sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti leads to raganuga bhakti, that spontaneous loving devotion. It's not that Krishna or the pure devotees are forced to give that spontaneous love of God to one who practices sadhana. At the same time, by practicing sadhana sincerely and rigorously, then we kind of invite and invoke the mercy and grace of Krishna and Srila Prabhupada for our hearts to be cleansed. And so studying this Bhagavatam, this is part of our sadhana. This is part of our sadhana. And as we study, just like Prabhupada gives the example, there's the disease of jaundice. There's the disease of jaundice, and a symptom of the disease is sweets taste bitter. And part of the treatment, part of the cure, is to eat sweets. And as one eats sweets more and more, then the sweets taste sweet. So as we chant Hare Krishna more and more, study Bhagavatam, engage in morning program according to the guidance given by Srila Prabhupada, then we taste a sweeter and sweeter taste. We taste the sweeter and sweeter taste, and then we're inspired to do it more and more as the spiritual inclination of the soul, the bhakti that's inherent in the core of our being manifests more and more, and that's okay. So I'm going to read the verse again. Jato cher ajanayat suyaman suyagya akuti sunaramaranata dakshinayam loka trayasya mahatim aharadyadartim svayam bhuvena manuna harir ityanukta the Prajapati first begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagya begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagya, as the Indradev, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your attention. I welcome comments or questions. Daru Brahma Prabhu. You're on mute now, but I see your hand is raised. I'll take you off.
There you go. Did you say early on that there was another canto where there was a listing of incarnations, but it was like a little different?
Yes, first canto, third chapter, list of incarnations, and it's a little different. It's not exactly the same. For example, the first canto, third chapter, for example, it gives quite some time to some of the Vishnu incarnations. This chapter doesn't directly talk about Vishnu incarnations. They're talked about in other places of the second canto. Yes, so there are some differences, yeah.
Well, is this one supposed to be like the Leela incarnations, whereas those were Vishnu? Is that one of the major differences, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. For example, like both chapters describe Lord Ramachandra and Nrsingadev and Vamana and Varaha, and both chapters mention Krishna and Balaram, and so I don't know exactly what to distinguish. It just seems like, well, first of all, like, because any one of the incarnations we could talk about it for years and decades. So in Sutta Goswami's talk to Shaunaka Rishi and the sages, it was just naturally time to talk about the incarnations, and similarly here in Brahma's talks to Narada. So there's mostly overlap, but even in the overlap, the way the incarnations are described aren't exactly the same. The verses kind of reveal different perspectives of the incarnations. But as far as the 25 or 28 incarnations mentioned, I don't know, maybe about 19 or 20 are about the same, and then each one has some that the other doesn't mention.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, why? I mean, because it could be confusing. Just like sometimes even in the Bible, the four major Gospels of Jesus, they don't all say the same things, and that's part of the reason people will say this is a sign that they didn't even know each other or whatever. So, maybe there's a reason not to believe it so much. So it makes you wonder: is there any reason? Why would our books have a similar kind of a thing of a difference where you might make you think, why are they the same if it's the same person? You know what I mean? So I'm just wondering what you might think there would be a good reason to have a little difference at all.
Well, difference does not mean contradiction. It's just like, okay, let's take whatever. Let's take any incarnate, let's take Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, Mohini Morti, Korma avatar, the tortoise avatar, right? So these are vast personalities. So if they're being described in one or two verses, for me it makes sense that someone who describes them might particularly focus on this particular quality or this particular activity, and someone else is going to focus in one or two verses on this particular quality or that particular activity, because these are not unidimensional beings. These are multi and omni-dimensional beings. So it makes sense that when Sutta Goswami is sharing his inspiration realization, it's personal. What he shares is going to have perhaps a somewhat different flavor and perspective than when Lord Brahma shares his realization. So to me, different does not mean contradictory. It means personal. It means naturally there's variety in spiritual pastime.
Well, that makes sense. But I was wondering, others some like striking things like, the famous Jesus was the famous, you cannot come through Jesus, God, but through Jesus. That's only in the John gospel. It's not in the others. So that makes it strange. I'm just saying there are other things that maybe within these two different lists where it's like, why is that different? Or it's that strangely different. It's not listed at all. I don't know. It just maybe there's nothing like that, but it's just in your, because I didn't know there was such a difference at all. And I'm just wondering, does anything stand out as, well, anyhow, I can understand what you just said. Someone may describe fully or more or less, that's true. But why is there maybe something not at all mentioned, or I don't know, just anything, maybe there's nothing like that, but I just wanted you to see anything raised in your mind at all?
Yeah, based on my study, there's not even any apparent contradiction in the two chapters. Yeah,
Okay,
there's not even any apparent contradiction. Again,
yeah,
the number of incarnations are more numerous than the waves of the sea. Some
yeah,
incarnations are especially important for us. And so Sutta Goswami in his speaking had a particular inspiration why to mention those particular 27. He could have mentioned another 27,000 that doesn't even touch on those 27. But
that's true, yeah.
yeah, okay. Thank you, Dhira.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
I'll just, Hare Krishna, just wanted to comment that if everything was like predictable in the scriptures and everything matched and it wasn't like unique and different and makes you want question, like for me, it's really dynamic learning about Krishna, and it's very like humbling, and it makes me have like a spirit of wonder and awe. And then likewise what his devotees say or communicate to us, or in these scriptures, like the fact, like it just, for me, it increases my faith. I just want to put that out there. For some people that are very skeptical or maybe on guard, they're going to maybe cross their arms and be closed, and like this should all make sense to me in my brain. But for the person who's ready to be open-hearted to whoever God is and whatever he does and whatever his devotees say and why they say it, and not really have any opinion about those people because they're like elevated souls. Yeah, like it's just fun. That's all I wanted to say. That for me, it increases my curiosity, and I prefer the dynamic, like having a lot to turn over and having a lot to be curious about and go deeper into, and it not all being perfectly, like the fact that I can't put it all in a box, put God in a box, or what his devotees do or say, or the incarnations. To me, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's more logical than whatever else.
Thanks for that. I appreciate, Dominique, how you appreciate the diversity, and even when there are apparent contradictions, that for you, that you would expect that if this is actually authorized, coming from a source that's far beyond our tiny brains, you would expect there are things that don't neatly fit into our conceptions, and so that's like for you, that's not a source of doubt. That's a source of affirmation that this is knowledge coming from a source transcendental to our mind and intellect, and you're excited. This is spiritual fun. I appreciate your sharing. Thank you, Bhakti and Dominique. Malini.
You probably said it, but I'm unclear about the name of the husband of Akuti, the Prajapati that's spoken here. The first, it says the Prajapati. I'm curious about who he is.
Okay, in the word for word, in the second word, is Ruche, and Prabhupada translates it as the wife of Prajapati. So Ruche, I'm assuming it's Prajapati Ruchi. His name is, he's the father, he's the husband of Akuti. So because Ruche is the wife of Ruchi, but his name is Ruchi.
Ruchi, and so Swayambhuva Manu is the father of mankind, and his daughter, you spoke about his three daughters. So who will be Ruchi's father?
I don't remember, or I don't know. I'm trusting it's described, and probably something I've read many times, but I haven't. I'm not sure. I mean, we could look it up very easily.
Yeah, I like to look it up because what's happening in my mind is what Dominic is speaking about is like I'm trying to have a linear understanding, and of course the Shastra cannot be put in a box, and at the same time Swayambhuva Manu being the father of mankind and his daughter marrying someone who is fathered by someone else and Swayambhuva Manu. It's just like, okay, what is that person? Where does that person come from? Where is that? What is relationship with Swayambhuva Manu? And you know, that's what's happening for me, and I'm fascinated by it. And it's not like him bringing doubt. It's bringing like, okay, well, how does that work? The father of mankind had a daughter, and he found someone to marry his daughter to, and who the father is, kind of.
I like that question.
Yeah, okay. I understand, like, when Swayambhuva Manu, of course, the English word man comes from Manu, so father of mankind. That it doesn't mean that he's the father of all members of the human race. Because we hear, again, I don't have this memorized, but we hear that like Brahma created 9 Prajapatis. Daksha was one, and Marichi was one. And maybe Ruchi came directly from Brahma, okay? Or maybe Ruchi's the son of Marichi, or maybe Ruchi's one of the 9 Prajapatis. So it's not that Swayambhuva Manu is necessarily the distant ancestor of all members of the human race. Because Brahma created 9 primary Prajapatis. I'm thinking now, as we're talking, probably Ruchi is one of those.
Yeah, well, that would be explaining why the Prajapati, at least in this edition, there's a capital letter to Prajapati. And it was one of the primary Prajapati, one of the 9 Prajapati. But then again, but my understanding is that from the Prajapati, not all of them are the progenitor for humankind. They have different, they are progenitor for different species.
Yes. Yes. Right. And
Manu, so is the father of mankind and is a Prajapati for the mankind. Is that correct?
Right, well, it doesn't mean he's the only Prajapati for humankind, and even anyone that comes from Ruchi and Akuti, well, they are coming from Swayambhuva Manu, because you got the maternal line is coming from Swayambhuva Manu.
Yeah, and there was interspecies kind of mixing, like at the dawn of creation, it seems. There is story like that, like John Bavon come to mind, or like that, some different people that are from different species. And then, so what you're saying, okay, Lord Brahma, he has his 9th Prajapati, and yeah, it makes sense because that, like his second, one of his 3 daughters, Swayambhuva Manu, he did marry with one of the 9 Prajapati. So maybe all 3 daughters were married to one of the 9 Prajapatis.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's helpful. It's helpful to Ronish speaking about those personalities.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate the conversation.
There's a chat from someone.
Yeah. Thank you for this class, writes Anandini. I am inspired by your gratitude and fascination for Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Anandini. Thanks for joining us. They are from Central Europe.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, Ezzy.
What does it mean to be the great father of mankind?
Where are we looking?
So like the end of the translation referencing Swayambhuva Manu,
Yep.
it was called
Great Father of mankind.
namely Swayambhuva Manu. What does that mean, like, to be the great Father of mankind?
Well, that this Swayambhuva Manu, the first Manu in this day of Brahma, so he's a great personality, and he through his direct descendants, grandchildren and great grandchildren, he's a great progenitor, and so much of the human race has expanded from him. He's a great devotee. He's actually a form of an incarnation of Godhead. So he's and part of the way he manifested his great service is through creating a lot of progeny that populated, well, I'm going to say the planet, and I'm going to say the universe actually. So he's a great personality that did great feats and great achievements, and one of them is as the progenitor of so much of the human form.
Who is his wife?
His wife is Satarupa.
And who is his wife's mom and dad?
Okay.
So yeah.
I was never good at this stuff. I mean, even materially growing up, I could never figure out is Shirley the mother of Marvin or this or that. I was always challenged by this sort of thing. Satarupa's
You've done
parents.
so good the rest of the class, though. Just till this moment.
What's that?
Yeah, you have done so well.
You've done really well so far.
Okay.
Just this moment.
Okay, so Satarupa. I'm not clear. I mean, I could speculate. It's something I've read so many times, but I didn't register it. So we'd need to look that up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just, I have a desire to know.
Okay.
Curiosity, desire to know.
Well, that's it, because it's all connected with Krishna. Krishna Samaprashna, Dina Masuprasikati. So these are spiritual desires to know. Hare Krishna.
Well, that's a good place to absorb our mind. Yeah. Like it's a natural tendency to absorb our mind in knowing people and knowing. And Prabhupada insists so much in his purport about knowing father and mother. Like he gives the example of the Kalki avatar. We know who is his father, who is his mother, which village is going to take place. And that's a very important part of absorbing our mind in the pastime of the Lord, like you said.
Yeah, and again, I remember last Sunday, Dr. Patrick, that was the theme of his class, because it's true for me. We have so many things in our mind that won't help us purify our existence. So many details, so many names. And so this is, so if we're going to get into relationships and the names and who's the father of this, then we dovetail that propensity here, and our existence becomes purified, and we're moving forward on the path back to Godhead.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, I appreciate the association and conversation. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai, Hare Krishna.